Hi everyone. Well, this is the second part of the video that I recorded recently about the 13th, the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th zodiac sign, and what's the origin to this information and how it integrates to what we call reality today, and how it can get to influence precisely that reality and to some extent that has been created a whole um, science, if we may call it that way, of astrology. And I'm calling it science because I know many people will differ in this, yet I'm talking through its connection to astronomy because they are quite connected. And I'm not talking about astrology as a full esoteric um, branch of spirituality. I'm talking about astrology as a branch to astronomy, fusioned with mystic knowledge and wisdom, as well as spirituality. So, in this video, I will be talking about covering all these topics to some extent, briefly, of course, as this is just a part two of other four parts to this sequence that there will be. So thank you for joining. Well, as I was sharing in the last video, when we talk about this particle of light and 12 being the static particle of light, this cross-fiction, this cross, the Templar cross, and when we come to unite the 12 as one, then we get the 13 zodiac sign. And when we get to spin those 13 from the 99.9999999% of the space that dwells around and which is actually molding what we get to see as matter. In this case, this densified energy going at a slower rate, that is the particle of light. So how can this translation of all this information can can influence or can affect a human? Well, as I was sharing also in last video, for instance, when we were talking about the moon and the influence that the moon, the gravity of the moon, the gravitatory field of the moon, the impact that it has on the molecular structure of any form of existence that resides in the earth. Ergo, it has a lot of influence in the molecular structure of the human, and then no wonder all these moon cycles directly influence the behavior, the emotional perception, the every form of perception of the human towards reality. And even more, as this moon, if we say that it's influencing through its gravitatory field the water in the earth, how can this affect also life cycles? Because water is also intimately connected in determining the life cycles. So everything is all connected, and cycles are mainly what we could relate to time. Because time, then again, what we get to call or how we got to name the cycling of and the periods of life, we chose to call it time to organize into different units that would be easier to have control of the segments in between memories that are happening and throughout memories that are happening. And I'm mentioning only this because this is a very important topic that I will be covering in this video related to memory. What is memory? What is remembering? And if we talk about these memories, how we have sustained those memories has been through a linear time system, which is very limited to what a multidimensional being is as us, to what the quantum field is, this infinite field of probabilities. So then that distortion happens to be sustained in the time system. And then again, the time is quite connected to the moon. That's why the white rabbit, and because there are also very important codes anchored in Lepus, which is the constellation down. How am I talking about all these constellations being so uh, fundamentally influencers in human behavior and in daily life? We are energy, right? So as energy, we are beaming at a specific rates. Okay, so let's say if we are in harmony, then we are ranged in 432 hertz, which in beaming terms would be a specific pattern and a specific intermittence. Now, when there is a partial acknowledgement of the informational spheres, in this case, the zodiacs, that are embedded and active in the in the original human hologram, then let's say that we are creating an arrhythmia in that intermittence because it's not coherent. There are energy losses. There is an energy loss. Why? Because if you, for instance, when you're talking about quantum terms, it is said that only what we are capable to envision, what we are capable to visualize, it's what we come to perceive, and then it exists. Therefore, it exists. So let's say that whatever and what any kind of information that does not come consciously to our awareness, to our state of awareness, then it apparently doesn't exist. Nevertheless, that's not literally accurate. How? Because there are different levels or scales of awareness. The last layer is what we come to envision in this realm. That doesn't mean that we haven't foreseen it from another dimension. Complex? When we come to acknowledge that everything that we are experiencing is just a memory. And that's why we are remembering, because everything has already happened. We're just coming to remember. And this will lead to another very important topic that I might cover in this video, maybe not. We'll see. And definitely we'll be covering it throughout these videos and focusing on it. So, because it's about the artificial matrix, what it's called the simulation or simulated matrix. I call it the artificial matrix. Anyway, how does this relate to, for instance, Cetus, the 14th zodiac sign, or to Ophiuchus, or to, in this case, would be Pisces, the last zodiac sign from the 12th zodiac sign? Well, as I was mentioning previously in the other video, Pisces for Pi and Isis, which is a primordial gen, which we can connect to the Vesica Pisces, which we can connect as well to the first form of communion in between two wholeness, because there are two spheres. The sphere is wholeness, two spheres coming together, generating a trinity, and that generates the eye. The eye representing as well the black hole. We know that we came from a black hole, and the universe that we are inside a black hole. That's what we can get to perceive as the solar system, as the universe itself. So this is a huge code. Why a lot of keywords are related to Isis? Well, let's say that the frequency, speaking about frequencies, the frequency of Isis is, I will just set the first example, is, like how you spell it. In English, is. It is what it is. Then the next one, because it's not an original English word, it comes from the Greeks. And the Greeks would, as all ancient civilizations, have this huge keys of frequency in order to open up portals through the language. We can also relate this to the Babel Tower, where the power of the frequency would come just through the sounding, the communication in between beings that would establish and nourish the wholeness and simplify a lot the reality. So the frequency, when we are not into the alignment of what humanity needs right now for what it's living, because as I was saying, these 12 zodiac signs are related to the first matrix, which is encoded or in the 1260 algorithm. Whereas this artificial matrix is embedded in the 1320. So the 1320 is this algorithm that came up in order to remember the key, the hints to handle this artificial matrix. The thing is that amnesia happened. At least the magnification of this amnesia. So when this happens, it's like, imagine you just remember about the artificial part, what you get to perceive through your eyes. If you forget that it's artificial, so then that amnesia continues to nourish that egregor of consciousness, that egregor. And what wasn't turns out to exist, and what it was turns out to vanish, apparently, which was just putting that or setting the attention in something else, puts that something, that original primordial thing, to sleep until the moment came, and the moment is now. The first matrix was hibernating, was regenerating. All of this I'm talking from the holofractographic field. And this matrix would involve just a part that would be enhanced with the artificial matrix so that both come together and generate the trinity, which is the new matrix. Why? Because from the unified consciousness as the source is, it's not about, is this or is this? No, it's both. And from those both, you get the best of them. You generate another result. And that's the quantum field. You cannot just say, okay, it's one probability. No, there are infinite probabilities. And from those infinite probabilities, you're generating, or you could generate, depending on how aware you are of it, the best one. So that's one thing. Now, Cetus as the 14. You might say, hey, but we haven't even fully recognized the 13 zodiac signs, and now you are suggesting for us to acknowledge 14 of them. Well, I'm just sharing my memories and the importance that from my perception I humbly deliver, because there is so much more greatness to embody. And the more we open up to receive, the more we are becoming and embodying that Taurus, that coherence and resonance to universal laws. So, because then again, the Taurus won't reject information. It will just order that information. It will bring it in and then order it. So this is about it. When we're talking about a dual or it's a separated consciousness, we're talking about this reasoning where just something is true, not the whole. Just choose whether it is or whether that. And that has been part of the that has been definitely part of the apprentice.